Hello, bonnet heads. Welcome back to Little House 50 podcast. Listen, we have a big show for you today. So I'm just going to introduce my lovely, lovely co-host, Dean Butler, our hashtag imaginary boyfriend. Woohoo! And here in New York City, herself, our prairie bitch, Allison Arngrim.
Yay!
I'm so glad. It's so fun to be with her in person.
What? Well, you guys must be having fun. I mean, my God, I can't imagine you must be having a ton of fun hanging
We're
out
doing a
here.
show tonight. We're in New York. We're going to Broadway. We're catching a show.
And saw Allison's Confessions of a Prairie
And she saw
Bitch
my
on
show.
Sunday on Mother's Day, and it was epically great. Her
Now,
best
was this like the really racy version, or was this a more family friendly? Okay, so this is like, wow.
New York. This is New York, baby, on 42nd Street and 9th. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
and it was a packed.
Sold out.
Yeah.
Remember you said you called it a comp? I go, I don't know. I'll see if we have chairs.
I know.
Completely sold out. I had people calling going, I just tried to get a ticket to your show. I'm like, yeah, no. And completely sold out. And they tore up the floorboards, the yelling, the screaming.
It was
the
great.
insanity. Yes.
And I've seen her show several times, and this one was like, I don't know. So there was something very special
Well,
going on.
and I spent the weekend in Pepin, Wisconsin, so it was an
right.
entirely different kind of energy.
Everyone was
we were
texting me.
texting.
They were all texting from there. I was like,
Yeah.
Kevin's texting again.
Well, no, so, in the middle of a Prairie Remembers dinner, the phone rings and Jack Bishop picks up the phone who was it? Was it Pam? Pam picked up the phone.
Pam called me. I was in a taxi coming from the airport. Pam's going, do you have a minute? Can you go on speaker? I'm like, oh my God, you guys, right? Okay.
Yeah, no, it was great.
So I got on
have fun.
the taxi. I got on at the dinner. It's like,
Right. No, you made an appearance on the way into Manhattan. I think that's awesome. Pamela, we have a very special guest today, and I think we need to get right to her.
And I'm going to let you guys introduce her. From the studios of UBN Go in Burbank, California, this is a special event podcast. This is Little House 50 for 50.
I met her in 1979 when I joined the cast of Little House. She has lived her life at the center of the Little House universe. As the show celebrates 50 years, she just celebrated 60 years last week. Unbelievable. Allison.
ladies and gentlemen, bonnet heads. Yes, my arch nemesis, childhood BFF, Melissa Gilbert.
Mother has arrived.
Yes.
Mother has arrived.
I am mother. I am mother.
Amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being here. This is
Well, I almost didn't make it because I'm 60. I'm kidding. Everything I do right
What
now
does
makes
that
very-
mean for me? Oh my. Okay.
Well, I'm 62. I'm going back to bed then.
Yeah, right, exactly. We're all checked out.
Everything I say right now, because it's not even been a week, I just keep saying it's because I'm 60.
Yeah,
Just-
why not?
Yes,
you've earned that.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were all together, what is it, about a month ago? More than a month ago for the Simi Valley event, which was insane.
I'm still recovering.
Yeah,
I'm a
same.
mess. I'm a mess.
Was that fun for you? I mean, did you have a good time? Did it meet your expectations? It's so important to us that it did.
I did. I had a really good time. I thought it actually exceeded my expectations. I was kind of amazed at how many people came and how enormous it was. I did not expect that at all. I was as you guys were, very tired when it was over. And I sort of felt like
Tired. Yeah.
I was a therapist the whole weekend. Like people just would walk up to me and start crying. You know how that goes. And so there's just, you can't just say, hey, and then move on. You have to sit with people for a few minutes when they're that emotional. So I did. I felt like a therapist and a teacher and a mom and a nana. And the other thing I loved though was that I was able to have some of my kids there, and one of my grandkids came, and that part was really amazing. I love that. And my brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Do your kids and your grandkids watch the show?
My 9-year-old granddaughter does. Lulabelle does. She's old enough. The little ones are still too little. The 3 oldest boys my stepson Willie married a woman with 3 grown boys, so it's too late.
Never too late.
I don't know. We'll see if they have children. Someday maybe they will be forced to.
I don't know. I have a few adult friends that started watching and are like, minds blown.
We have new recruits to the cult.
Sure. I'm sure. 100%. I'm sure. Lulabelle has been watching for a while now. She watched when she was really, really little and she couldn't really speak well. So she called Laura Rolla, and she kept asking me if she could have a play date with Rolla. And I had to explain that Rolla was me when I was little.
Yes, I am Rolla.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm Rolla, but I was little when I was Rolla. So now she knows. Now she knows everything. She's a 9-year-old genius.
Cool. Of course. Speaking of when you were little, you were 9 when you started the show. And I'm curious as to, I feel like the show had, 9 seasons. And I feel like seasons 1 through 3 were its own thing. Then 4, 5, 6 was its own thing. Then 7, 8, 9 was its own thing. And I'm wondering where you were. You literally grew up in front of all of us. And I'm wondering where you sort of were during those different stages. Where were you at season 9 versus where you were in where were you in season 1 versus where you were in season 9? And that's a big deal.
If we go by your guidelines, seasons 1, 2, 3, I was just a little kid there having an adventure and doing a job and going to school and hanging out with Allison and everybody else there. But I was just, every day was a new wonder and excitement for me. There was always something fun to do. There was always someone to hang out with. And I loved the work itself. I loved being able to be a kid and play and have a really good time and then go to work with the adults and be treated like an adult for a few minutes and then sent back to school. Yeah. It's a rude reminder of my place in the social strata of the Little House universe. The first 3 years, I was just a kid, but I loved being just a kid. I had all kinds of different relationships with different people, lots of surrogate parents around. There was one grip who I would stand next to when I was little, and I'd say, all the blood has rushed to my feet. And he just grabbed me by my ankles and flipped me upside down and hanged me. What's more fun than that? There were horses, and everybody had their dogs on the set, and there were chickens and a raccoon and a bear once, and snakes and lizards and frogs and my pain in the neck brother. So, it was, that part was fun. The next 3 years, I feel like everybody wanted Laura to be just awkward. Just awkward. Banana boobs, really? Was that necessary? Or not banana boobs, listen to me. Apple boobs. They aren't bananas.
I'm sorry. What description is that?
And I'm calling you that from now on.
Banana boobs? Perfect. Please do. Just call me Dusty.
Well, I couldn't imagine. My adolescence was so awkward. Yours was not. You still looked like you through all the stages of your life.
We were awkward. We were both very awkward.
Do you feel?
I didn't want to know. I wanted to look like everybody else. I wanted to be able to cut my hair like everybody else and wear clothes like everybody else. And I couldn't because my hair had to be in those braids all the time. So I couldn't have a cute hairstyle. Some people got to have a cute hairstyle underneath. Talking to you there, sister.
I didn't. I had to get my hair. It was cute. It had bangs, but I couldn't change my bangs. I couldn't change the length because the 2-piece had to be combed in the wig and the bangs.
That's true.
This is now my hairstyle. It was Barbie, but it had to stay Barbie for the whole time.
The challenges that young women go through. It's like, guys put on a T-shirt, some jeans, and you just sort of like step into the world. For young women, girls to young women, that's a huge, huge time.
Well,
it's a big time. Go ahead.
15. No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, especially like that 12 to 15 is so awful anyway. And then to be on TV.
Yeah. And then, you're in junior high and they sit you down and say, okay, now you're going to get married. To a grown up.
Oh, God.
And I was just so full of awkward that I don't think I actually felt, well, I know I didn't feel 100% comfortable in my skin until I turned 50, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's true.
Boy, there's something to be said for that. But, I know I've said this to you before, but I want to say it to make sure everybody understands. While you may have been feeling all of these things under your skin, outwardly, you were always in control. You were always communicative. You were always extroverted and welcoming, regardless of the anxiety that was maybe bubbling under the surface. On top, it was all good. It was always good.
It was all fine unless someone looked at my hands. My nails were so bitten. I don't bite them anymore, but they were bitten too. They would bleed. I would bite my nails so low.
Wow.
So there was definitely stress there, but I didn't show it. And also, I feel like the work environment got to eventually to be easier than home, especially after my father passed away.
When you visit Simi Valley, California, you are stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents, explore beautiful wildflowers, hike through iconic Hollywood locations, and end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. Less than 15 minutes from Los Angeles and 30 minutes from Universal Studios, Simi Valley has small-town charm with big-time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information.
Who else do we want to thank, Allison?
We also want to thank Cozy TV because, hey, we're on there. Road X, Modern Prairie. Modern Prairie. Price for the city of Simi Valley, of course. Adventist Health in Simi Valley. Thank you for your support of the Little House 50 for 50 podcast. Oh my God. And did you realize that, at what age did you realize that you were kind of quasi in charge, you were responsible for the employment of all of these people?
No, I had no idea. I had no idea. All I knew, in fact, it's so much so that I had no idea that I remember who it was, but someone picked up that story from your book about the mom coming down on you and saying horrible things and all that horrible stuff. And then me calling everybody together, all the kids together and saying, listen, like presidenting as a child. Yes. I had no recollection of that at all because it's like a big, strong, brave moment. And those are the things that don't register for me necessarily.
We were all crammed in my dressing room and you were like, now look, you just like you did, you mother.
I know. Well, I've always been outspoken when it came to things that were unjust to somebody else, maybe not necessarily to me. Maybe I was just a good girl who said, it's okay, I'm fine. But everybody else I would fight for. Maybe that's my way of sort of fighting for myself when I was out there little.
Mm-hmm. And you were supposed to be fine. Is it when your father died and you were supposed to be fine? You're supposed to be fine.
How did you process that and working every day? And what was that like?
I don't remember 100%. I just remember going. I was in school. We were on hiatus when he passed. And we went back to work a little while later. And I guess I found out later that all of the adults were told not to discuss it with me. Because I would be too upset. I know. They were told that, if she's too upset and she can't work, we have to send her home. Let's just maintain an even strain as long as possible. So nobody discussed it with me.
So this would have been like season 2, 3 to what 11. So what was the season 2?
Season 2, 76.
Okay. Okay. So season 3.
I didn't get the memo, and Annie Marion didn't get the memo. My Annie Marion or she got the memo and said, "This is stupid," because Annie Marion came to me and said, "Melissa's dad just died, and maybe you should say something to her. She's probably feeling really badly right now." Like, I don't know.
Is that how you found out?
Yes, like a normal person. Mm-hmm. She said, "Hey, maybe she's sad because her father died, and you should be nice to her."
Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. And Leslie Landon Matthews told me just a few years ago that she had no idea my father had died when we knew each other. She thought he died way before because no one ever told her.
Oh, that's interesting.
And she hadn't met him. So she just assumed that he died before we ever knew each other.
In retrospect, do you wish people had said something to you, or was it better not to? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I probably would have healed a lot more. I just kind of, buried everything that I was feeling. And then a lot of that came out on screen. Thank God I had the show. Otherwise, I'd be like Gilda Radner's Christina Crawford character, just switching all over the place with someone throwing bits of liver in my mouth. But I'm good. It's such a vague reference, but a good one.
You get it. It's the right age group. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I am blessed that I had that outlet, and it definitely came out on screen a lot. This conversation got fun fast, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it got darker. Yeah, I mean, it definitely got more serious than I imagined it was going to get quickly.
But it's also, I don't think people realize how much hard work it is to be an actor when you're 9 and you're fronting a network television show. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot of pressure, whether you realized it or not at the time. And then to deal with such a personal tragedy on top of it and still showing up to work and doing your job and yelling, I'm a woman, I hate you all.
Well, that was later.
Conviction.
That was a little bit later, but let's not forget. And I think, the extraordinary partnership you had with Michael is, that had to be an enormous help during a very difficult time.
I mean, it was, it was very clear. It was very clear to me that, I never felt like my job was not secure, for sure.
Right.
I always knew it never occurred to me that I would go anywhere. I just felt like we were we bonded during the pilot. We bonded during my screen test, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And it was instant. And then on those teeth.
We both decide at the same time.
I know. I got to tell you, I've got one grandchild that looks just like that too, and it kills me. I look at her and go, "Wow, it's so bizarre." And then also having the relationship that we had off screen really helped. Having our families be really close friends and vacationing together and going to Hawaii together, and he just folded me in with his kids whenever we were all together. So I became child number, whatever, how many at 10? I was number 10, number 9, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. 75 children. So I was number 76, I guess. And I was, I would get in line and he'd throw us in the air in the pool. And I was just a part of that whole group. So I felt very comfortable with him on the set.
Yeah.
Now, Allison was, as we all know, your bestie during that whole time. But what was it like? There she is. So I'm sure that helped with the fun of going to work every day. But after she left, what was it like?
Dumb.
Just stupid.
It was just pointless and stupid. I mean, Dean was there and that was nice. Sorry, Dean. And, there were some people stayed behind. Richard, Bull, and my brother. My brother wouldn't leave. I don't know why.
Why? I wouldn't know.
He just stayed there to annoy me, I think.
Because when I came back, season 9, Return of Nellie, and I was there, I remember you and several other people said, it's kind of quiet around here. It's a little dull. Could you maybe just don't even be on the show, just come to the sets or something?
Well, the next gen of kids were a little different, like Shannon and David and Allison Balson. And those guys, they felt seriously like next gen kid actors because they were really focused on career stuff. And I was just, we were just like, oh, we get to dress up and be on camera and we're going to have candy. Right. These guys were like, I need to call my publicist. It was a whole other mindset with the other kids in the next gen. And their parents were different too.
Mm-hmm. I just remember Shannon Doherty I had never met I had not had so much experience with kid actors, but she was the most focused on being a star. That was, you just knew that this was just like central to who she was and who she wanted to be. It was
wasn't
all
the
about
job.
that.
It was all the other stuff too.
Yeah.
Which was the stuff that I just, I got to go to these fun things and travel and do stuff, but it didn't really mean that much to me.
Well, I always remember when you were starting to go out and do things that you would have, I always remember the day you had this white, or period of time you had this white nail polish on, and you always had your hands hidden. So when you hugged anybody, it was like, it was like this. It wasn't open hands, it was closed hands, and you were covering this, covering the accoutrements of modern life.
Oh, it was actually more than that, because I bit my nails so badly. When I would go and do talk shows and stuff, they would send me to get acrylic nails.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
And I couldn't take them off myself. My teeth would break. So I'd have to hide my hands until the manicurist could come and take them all off, which was not my choice. I didn't care.
Wow. Yeah. Funny.
I saw a still one someone posted of you, very emotional scene, season 8, season 9, something like that. And you're hugging, I think, Dean. And you see it's long nails, long acrylics. And then one nail fell off. Oh. A big little chewed nail with all of the acrylics.
Terrible.
It's amazing the things that people see. I'm amazed at what people see.
I was so focused on not showing those nails. It must have been, the emotion must have been so intense that I forgot to hide my hands, because I would watch the episodes where Melissa Sue had manicures and think that's so inappropriate. And she always had her climbing rocks with these.
Climbing the rocks, yeah.
After the stagecoach accident.
Not acrylics until like the last few years. No acrylic. I didn't even have my freaking ears pierced till I was like 21.
Oh, I didn't have my ears pierced either.
I would wear nail polish on the weekends and then scrubby Sunday night with the That's
and I would have, if I'd had nails, they couldn't put nail polish on my nails because they made them look even more stumpy.
Right.
This is the stuff that people really want to know about. I mean, it's I'm being sort of, I'm not being facetious. I think this is the stuff that people love.
But how many people
that we're talking about right now?
Okay, Melissa. Now we've talked a lot to Dean about the relationship between you and he when he first came on the show, how possibly uncomfortable it might have been for both of you in your own way to be working so intimately together. So,
she said enough about it. She doesn't need to talk about it more.
No. Because we've only heard from Dean's perspective now. So I would love to hear from your perspective. First of all, we know pranks were made on him in the beginning between you and Allison. And we know, the kiss was awkward and the mother was there. We know those things, but it would be lovely to hear you speak a little about your relationship with Dean and maybe how it progressed over the years as well.
Dean will hide under the desk.
Yes.
Probably.
Well, la. Go ahead.
We've had this conversation, Dean and I. He knows all this stuff. I just remember so clearly that we were getting up to the point of introducing Almanzo. I don't know why we did that.
Hey, TV, it's Almanzo.
Whole other conversation. And I remember them sitting me down. I remember Michael saying, we're going to have the Almanzo character come and we're reading everybody, all the boys in the land, and we'll see who we pick. And my assumption was just, at the oldest, maybe someone around the Eric Shea age.
Which would have been what? That would have been what?
Eric Shea would depend.
Eric Shea and I went to school together, so he's one grade ahead of me. He's a year older. He's between me and Allison.
Got it.
But there were like 8 Shays. They were just every time.
They were a lot of Shays acting. But Eric went to Buckley with me. He was a grade above. So that was my assumption, and I was wrong because they said when they told me they cast someone, I said, "Well, who is it?" They said, "Well, you're going to meet him. We don't want to. It's a surprise. You'll meet him."
No,
that's cruel. Okay.
No, I mean, maybe I don't know. But all I remember is the first time I saw Dean, my first thought was, "Wait a minute, he's a man."
Yeah.
And then thinking, how are they going to do this? And then thinking, my next thought was, how many years is it going to be until they marry us? Because it can't happen now. It all got really real. Like I sort of had this idea in my imagination of what this relationship would be like. And even though I knew Laura and Almanza got married in the real Almanza when they were very young, but it just, I don't know. I think it just underlined the fact that I was really still just a kid when this started. And so I think they were really, really, really careful in the way they wrote the courtship to give us a lot of time and also to have the audience fall madly in love with Dean so that it wasn't so creepy and to keep him
creepy old man.
And exactly. And not, pestery. Just keep it like this sweet, warm. And I thought they handled it really well. I've told Dean this and I've said this publicly and I'll say it again. I thought he handled it incredibly well. That's a really horrible situation to step into. And Dean, your compassion and ability to navigate all that on top of the pressure of coming in and, Michael can be prickly, especially with the guys sometimes and younger guys, I should say. Younger.
Why did no one tell me that before?
Well, I was a little busy worrying about the apples falling out of my dress. So
I'm sorry. Oh, well, that was just once, right? That wasn't a daily thing.
But we remembered it for the rest of our lives.
You'd like to think it wasn't a daily thing.
My sister and I used to put apples in our dresses and reenact it.
Wow. Isn't that something?
It's a cultural,
Yeah,
moment.
no. Well, you had the scene with Melissa Sue Anderson about the lady bumps. Right? I mean, was that just like a subplot? And I don't remember. I can't tell you the specific episode, but I certainly remember the scene.
Yeah, the bumps.
It was bumps. It was talking about bumps. Nellie has bumps. Mary has bumps. Everyone has bumps except me.
Oh God! And you're also the age in which your body is in that weird in between phase.
Well, and I was the slow bloomer of all of us too. So
Perfect.
I also didn't have any bumps.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have them. And I mean, we were talking about all the stuff off camera, Allison and Leslie and
I
all
woke up one morning and went, I don't know.
I know. Whoops. And so I was in that very awkward place to begin with. So that was really uncomfortable, to say the least. But I did. I soldiered through.
You absolutely soldiered through.
You absolutely did. And every time I see I'm a woman, and I hate you all.
I love that moment.
My inner, it's so cringy, awful, and wonderful all at the same time. And the fact that you had to dig down, girl, and sell it and commit to it, which you did, is very, very admirable. Was there ever a conversation you're like, Michael, really? Please.
He really made you go the whole distance. You had to buy in all the way in that moment as to where you were going with this.
It's all in constantly. I think the only time I ever said anything to anyone higher up was later. There were a few episodes towards the end where kind of all I did was pour coffee.
I had to be a common theme with some of the women.
So I went into the executive producer's suite of offices where Ken and Mike was there that day. I made sure he was there that day. And I went in and I said, really? Just coffee? For me? And they went, what? And I said, just coffee? They went, whoa, it's coming. Hold on. It's coming. You're going to be okay. I'm like, okay. See ya. That was it.
Interesting.
Wow. I think we need to take another quick break.
We are so very grateful for SeeMeValley.com for their commitment to present the Little House 50 for 50 podcast that celebrates this 50th anniversary year. Can you believe it? Who else do we want to thank, Allison?
We also want to thank Cozy TV because, hey, we're on there. Road X, Modern Prairie. Modern Prairie. Price for the city of Simi Valley, of course. Adventist Health in Simi Valley. Thank you for your support of the Little House 50 for 50 podcast.
Okay, so we asked our audience if they could ask you anything, what would it be? And we got some really great, we've got some great ones. Are you ready? Okay.
I was until Arngrim started mugging and making me nervous.
I'm reading these things and going,
I'll start with this. Okay. Lindsay_Penner wants to know, what would be one thing that you would have changed throughout the series if you had the power to go back and adjust it? And to go along with that question, Carrie Gerard wants to know, if you were given the chance for one do-over, what would it be? I think those sort of go hand in hand.
They kind of do. The one thing I would change that just like off the top of my head popped right in my head is the color of all of our makeups. We all had to match tan Michael. Why? I drove home. I looked like a pumpkin thing. I mean, I did. It was terrible. Orange and bad and dark and weird, and we had to have it on our hands and on our, if our any skin that showed, because we are all normal colored people. Michael was just always tan, and they lit to him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Was it Egyptian number 2 or some
Natural tan.
Natural tan? It was not natural.
There was nothing natural about that tan. It was the color of an orange. I can't describe it any other way.
Flaming.
Yeah, I looked particularly fantastic driving home from work in my later years when I drove myself with my orange face and my red heart-shaped sunglasses. I looked like something from an anime movie.
Perfect.
That was my adolescence. It was a joyful one. So I would change that for sure.
Yeah. And if you had one do-over, what would it be?
One do-over. Oh, you know what? I was a bit checked out in the last movie we did, the one with the kidnapping.
Oh.
I wasn't really there, and I really felt as far away from the character as I ever had, and I think it had to do with the fact that they jumped the age of the baby so much that all of a sudden, like she's like a teenager.
It wasn't quite that bad, or that much.
Baby.
Yeah.
She's not that much. She was like 3.
Yeah, no, she went to 3. Yeah, she went to like 3 years old.
And how old were you when you did when that movie was made?
It was
18?
the last, wasn't that it was right before it was the second to last, right before the last farewell.
Right.
And so that I was 19.
Oh. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It felt like it was written over my head and that I wasn't ready for it. And so when I read it, I just thought, I can't really do this. I'll do my best, but this isn't going to go well.
Interesting.
So looking at it in hindsight, for me, I could see that I just wasn't present. Not as present as I was in the last farewell, for sure.
Interesting. I'm going to ask my own personal question because you just talked about opening a script and reading it.
I just confused myself.
No, what?
Well, in the last farewell, didn't we have the original? Didn't we have the original baby, Jennifer? Wasn't she
I
just a
don't think
baby when
so.
Mom came to see her in the high chair and picked her up?
Yes, we did. Jennifer was the baby. And then when the show ended, the mother and the little twin, they went on with their lives and decided to go to preschool. And so and according to Jennifer, her mom told her that they did call and say, we're making a TV movie. And she said, yeah, we're kind of done with that. And they went and got other twins because they went up a year or 2.
Yeah.
So was that movie...
I think it was all three movies. It was the different girl. The Stephan twins in the last 3 movies.
It's really confusing.
Were the Stephan twins in the last farewell? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Stephan twins?
Yeah.
Were they last farewell? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She was in Return of Nellie. She was all through 9.
I guess so then.
Yeah. That's how, because you who remember every detail of everything and knew everybody's dialogue. For me, this obviously was jarring for you because it's like I can't imagine you not knowing that and being certain about it because that's just who you are. You are certain about it.
So that goes to show you how checked out I was.
There you go. Yeah.
I felt like they were riding over my head at that point a bit.
Okay.
I wonder if there was a little Laura burnout by that point too, You know
what? I felt like I was kind of burnt out that last season in general, until they told me that we weren't coming back. And then I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, right. No, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So selfishly, I'm asking my own cool listener question, which is, I want to know how you felt when you opened up the script and it was the Sylvia episodes, part 1 and part 2. And or like the Albert vomiting on himself morphine addiction episodes. Were you like, Michael Landon, what have you done? Or were you like, yes, this is incredible? Or like, what was the?
Oh, I thought was what? No, I didn't. It didn't even register with me. I mean, we'd already had Richard Mulligan die by an overdose of morphine coming home from the Civil War.
Yeah,
we had murderers and weird stalkers and religious fanatics, and
we had an orangutan. I mean,
yes, and Ray Bolger.
And Ray Bolger, he was earlier, wonderful earlier.
It was just,
I always feel like this material, when you're doing these things, this material is coming at you so quickly that you really don't have time to drill down on it, other than just to get yourself ready to do it. And I think that's the nature of series television. I think, it's just, you just have to say, okay, you suspend any concern about whether you feel like it absolutely works or not. And with Little House, no one in I don't think I knew that you had that meeting with Kent and Michael to talk about coffee. But, I feel like we were not a group of people that was pushing back against leadership. It just didn't happen that way.
No, it didn't. Well, because there was no reason to, because they were so good at what they did. We were always safe. I will say, I don't think the episodes ever went too far because they were telling specific stories about specific things that were important.
Yeah.
But I do think we hopped over the shark and then we literally jumped. We hopped the shark with James and Cassandra and all these new Ingalls kids.
Yeah.
And we leapt over the shark when we brought in Nancy.
Oh, interesting.
Colonel Sanders.
I liked Nancy.
Colonel Sanders wasn't a shark leap. It was just a faux pas. Because
I thought Blanche was the shark devouring you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, we could get into these shark metaphors until cows come home.
I liked Nancy.
I did too.
I liked what Alison Balson did when I met her, and she said, "I didn't want to copy you. You were like imperious, but I decided to go with crazy." And I went,
I agree. No, that I agree. The performances were different. I just think they tried to recreate. They brought in Shannon. They brought in Allison. Then they brought in a bunch of little kids around them, and they sort of tried to recreate this whole thing that you and I and the kids in the 70s had, and I don't think it necessarily worked.
No. It was Baby Muppets. It was like Baby Muppets.
Baby Muppets.
Well, and I think I think that very point that you're making, Melissa, is why Michael ultimately realized he had to step away. Because he couldn't keep doing those conversations. Those moments were so beautiful with you and with Melissa Sue Anderson. He wanted to recreate that because the audience loved that, but he felt like he'd done it all. And I think that's one of the reasons why he had to step back.
I understand that. And remember, quite a few of the stories we did were done on Bonanza too.
Of course.
A Matter of Faith, that incredible episode with Karen and the cut on her leg.
We're going to talk about other episodes in part 2 of this conversation. So let's not go there now.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's not go there now. But is there another audience question?
Yes, of course. There are tons of them.
Okay.
Ready?
So ask one more, and then we need to jump out of this and transition to part 2.
Okay. Do you want a lighthearted one?
Yeah,
or more
sure. Let's go lighthearted. Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Kelbons says, I'd like to keep it light and ask, you have always had such amazing hair. You had a lot of hair questions, by the way. People ask, what did you think of the braids, and did they ever make your head hurt?
I love the braids. The braids were the easiest way for me to wear my hair. I wore my hair in braids all the time anyway. I still wear my hair in braids only at home because I actually had my hair in braids a few years ago, and I went to the mall.
Oh, God.
By 2 women who were sitting there. One turned to the other and said, "Isn't that the best thing you've ever seen? She's just trying to get people to recognize her." And that's the last time I've realized I'm now way more conscious of wearing braids in public.
Whatever happened to Baby Jane? You did the braids.
Exactly. It's not like, I was skipping down the aisle of the mall in a gingham dress with braids. So mean. But it had an effect. I don't wear braids in public. The great story actually my favorite story about my braids, and this is and then Dean can get bossy again and we can end this episode in the next one, is that when I was on the show, when we were filming the Blizzard episode, my sister was born. My baby sister was born. Very exciting time for me. And I would come home from work. She was in the room next door to mine. And I would come home from work and I would go into her room and I'd take my braids and I would tickle her and I'd go, tick, 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 tick. So when she was about 2.5, she came to me and she said, Melissa, will you make my hair into tickies? So we've called braids tickies ever since then.
Nice.
We're all gonna cry.
That's good stuff. Yeah, you got a lot of hair questions, so this is going to satisfy many, many, many people. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, I guess we stay tuned. We're going to see you for part 2, and maybe we'll talk about some favorite episodes, so you won't want to miss it. Like and subscribe. You can find us on littlehouse50podcast.com and our socials, and stay tuned. We'll be back. Bob, get the wig. Here we go. Let's fly, people.
Bob, get the wig.
Yeah, the wig is flying.